Welcome to the Enterprise Tech Talk podcast. Here we aim to demystify various enterprise technology topics and emerging technology trends through an open and honest discourse. Okay, so about today's topic. The topic of today is strategic considerations for AI investment for the enterprise. Now, it is reasonable to assume that most of us have at least given some thought about how to invest in AI in a more safe and scalable manner. In fact, the investment in AI is nothing new. Most of the organizations have already invested into the classic machine learning AI models. And with the advent of Gen AI, many organizations have already rolled out some use cases for wider employee base. But there are reports which suggest that most of the organizations still struggle to justify investment in ROI. There are some challenges which organizations face. In fact, most of the organizations have not taken investment in AI in a more strategic manner. So these are some of the points which we are going to discuss today. We will discuss how organizations should look at defining a strategy around AI. What are the governance and ethical considerations organizations should think of for a safe AI adoption? What is the technology backbone organizations should consider for a scalable AI adoption? What are the skills and the new roles which are emerging that organizations should consider and plan for AI adoption? And last but not the least, how organizations should approach the next evolution in AI, which is agentic AI. So to discuss some of these points, today I have with me Apurv Baviskar. Apurva has almost 20 years of experience in IT industry. He's passionate about data strategy, AI strategy, and architecture. He has wealth of experience in many verticals like healthcare, insurance, telecommunications, and financial services. So I hope you find today's conversation enjoyable as well as insightful. So, Apurv, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Soumitra. Thanks for having me. Really honored to be part of Enterprise Tech Talk as a first guest and looking forward to discuss this important topic with you. So it's my pleasure to be here and really look forward to see Enterprise Tech Talk succeeds and scale in a wider as you progress.
Thank you. Thanks, Apurva. Much appreciate that. And as I mentioned at the start as well, the intent here is to have much more open conversation and benefit everyone. Cool. So before we get into the actual topic of today, do you mind providing more about telling more about yourself to our listeners? What's your background and what excites you about data and AI? How did you get into this field?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, thanks for providing that kind of summary about my experience. Yes, it has been a long 19 years journey in technology. I've been passionate about serving different geographies along with the different verticals. So that has been the one of the important thing I consider, that I was able to serve different geographies along with Australia. So that makes me proud. Uh, Coming back to why data and AI. So I have been working in technology same number of years as I was working in data, and last 12 years I've been working with AI. So the passion comes from the numbers. I'm a numbers person. I always loved mathematics as a subject, and was quite fortunate to get good grades when I was in schools or engineering, and pursued that passion pursued as a career to focus on the intelligence and driving the business value with the data. And then it came 13 years back when I got an opportunity in South Korea for one of the biggest client in the telecom to really drive the solid technology architecture and deliver end to end around the ML, using the
Mm.
cross selling and upselling opportunity. That got me
Yeah.
into the uh, ML and the AI field, to see that how probabilistic determination can help to define a value for the business. So that passion continued, and you can see the 13 years I've been involved in number of roles in the AI and data space after that. Uh, in terms of setting up the foundations around the architecture, around the holistic enterprise platforms for insurances, utilities, supply chain, as well as financial services and the healthcare businesses, which are enterprise level. And the field has come long way. The ML models then became foundational models, then it became the sort of with the likes of LLMs, agentic AI, yeah, which you're talking. The major shift is with the compute. The compute is getting cheaper and cheaper, and because of that, data processing is getting faster and faster, as well as the AI is able to learn faster and faster with the number of parameters. You can see just this 2 days back, Gemini 3 is getting released, and
Yeah.
uh, the
That's
the
exciting, isn't it? Yeah.
fascinating. However,
Yeah.
it sort of scares me as well. The technology development is happening this fast in the curve. However, the adoption, are we there yet? So today will be interesting to see and have that discussion with you.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what exactly we want to discuss today. So let's move to the first point of for today's topic. As you mentioned, and I was also referring to in the introduction, while organizations have started investing in AI, they're still struggling to justify returns of investments. Many organizations have invested in AI organically in a way. So they started with machine learning, and then Gen AI came. Then they started piloting Gen AI tool sets, use cases, etc. Right now, agentic AI is knocking the door, um, but organizations are just responding to this AI innovation. But do you think the time has come for organizations to start looking at investing in AI much more strategically for longer term gains, for value differentiation, etc.? And if so, how they should approach this?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Sumitra, on that. I think it's no longer a fringe of innovation, right? It is becoming the core backbone of organization to operate. Some of the researches from the universities, which came like 70% of the pilots are not going into the production, and that sort of tells that it is uh, not having a proper strategic direction or right foundations applied to that. So the number of experiments are getting carried out, but they are not adding the value or tying back to the value. So I think well-defined strategy is required. Probably I would touch a couple of three, four things. Firstly, AI strategy gives an opportunity to align to the business outcome based on the what the business strategy is, that towards going towards improving customer experience or operational cost by 20%. It gives an opportunity to see where AI will really add the value and tie back to that business strategy going ahead. So that's the fundamental thing we can think of, where AI can be critical and not critical in the business. That leaves a second point is around minimizing the duplication and fringe investment from some of the
Mm.
from the you must have experience, and I have also experienced like 20 chat copilot chats, 20 SEO AI
Yeah.
engines around enterprise. And that sort of creates the not only the lack of ROI, but increases the cost. It increases the compliance and the risk issues, and not having the consistency across the technology landscape. And which creates the risk around the data. Also, it gives opportunity around the foundations of the governance, thinking about the culture and the data, right? AI cannot succeed without having the right data foundations around the data quality, data management, ability to get real time data, and the productization of data. So these are the some of the things I think would be required from the AI strategy perspective, which is gives an opportunity to drive AI investment strategically.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Good,
some
good. Yeah. So go on.
there are some of the things I think probably would consider is as Gartner suggests the framework around the strategy around the value vision and the stakeholder outcomes, focusing on that, and then defining the capabilities around the structures, governance, and the systems and the assets around the data and AI. I would say that these are some of the core ways to think about the AI strategy and developing that strategy.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No, good, good, great points. I would also say, um, I mean, even most of the boards, they have started asking about, or at least inquiring about what their organizations are doing about AI. So there is also a kind of top-down push from across the organizations to develop a formal AI strategy. And the point you made also is important that um, you also need to have a successful AI strategy. You need to have a good data strategy as well, because the AI strategy will not be successful if there is no clear backbone about data, right, from technology to governance perspective, everything. Okay, so let's move to the next point for our discussion, which is around AI governance and AI ethics, right? Um, so it goes without saying that, and everyone would agree that AI investment comes with its own risk, right? Because there is a lot of automation involved. Not necessarily there is a clear understanding of how AI will predict something, right? Um, there is always this argument around human in the loop when we talk about AI implementation. And organizations are generally a bit cautious in implementing AI for more customer facing use cases, or in the industries where there is a lot of regulation like healthcare, insurance, etc. Um, which means that there needs to be a good consideration around governance, and there is an ethical component to that as well. So, what are your thoughts, Apurva, as to how organizations should approach governance around AI, and what should be the ethical considerations for any organization to implement AI in a safe manner?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And uh, to have successful adoption of AI, a scaled AI, I would say that the governance forms a solid fundamental part of any enterprise, right? So I would say three probable areas which AI governance can focus on. Is the one is probably the model governance around if the models are getting inbuilt or embedded or getting fine tuned in case of LLM. Then what's the documentation around the model? Have you have model catalog, any risk profile rating and management of that, periodic performance testing, explainability standards, and getting that visibility of observability of that model performance, and then the model lineage around how the data is getting transformed and predicted across the board. That would be really important, and that can be critical uh, when the models are developed internally to manage those risks. However, it will be important for enterprises to ask those sort of questions when they are buying products and embedding into the enterprise landscape. The second is, I think, the data governance. The importance of data governance also goes up. as we discussed
True.
previously, having that strong data privacy, data ethics
Hmm.
embedded into the organization culture. It's quite
Hmm.
important to set up that right framework and to be able to create the catalog of the data domains and profiling, and to be able to define the right data quality rules, potentially use AI to drive the data quality around that, proactive data quality findings, because there have been surveys that the most of the model failures happen because of lack of proper understanding of the data, proper management of the metadata, and the data quality failures. So that's the second aspect. And then the third is the AI and the data ethics governance. Privacy is fundamental for any sort of AI or non AI related initiatives, but then the ethics comes into pretty good play when you're talking about AI. And as we have been discussing quite a lot, is the some of the standards, specifically here in Australia, AI ethics principle, which released a few years back, and now then there are voluntary AI safety standards, which clearly outlines the 10 guardrails which can be considered and embedded within the within the enterprises. So it's not a policy is just the one part of the ethical AI implementation, but then understanding some of these regulatory standards or the compliance standards, as well as what's happening if you are in the different geographies within your geography, what is happening with the frameworks. If I study, there are, for US specifically, there are, every state has their own
Yes.
their own sort of AI laws, so that
Yeah.
getting implemented. And in that ethical standards, the bias is quite critical from my perspective. Explainability,
Yeah.
auditability, human in the loop, and
Yeah.
is it going to make any critical decision making? So risk management around that,
Yeah.
and what sort of
Yeah.
escalation pathway are there.
Yeah.
So it is important to have that trust. I see that um, trust layer embedded within the every layer of the application integration data layer and the AI service layer, and helping to drive that trusted AI across the organization. So these are
Yeah.
three things I would say: the model governance, the upliftment in the
Yeah.
enterprise data governance, and the ethical data and AI governance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
No, it's the good points, and as you said, the AI regulations across the globe are still kind of emerging, I would say.
Yeah,
As you said correctly, US has state specific, and then I think in EU they are potentially leading the way in a way to come up with the first AI regulations, which are much more risk averse. And in Australia, yes, it's mainly the new voluntary standards, and most of it otherwise we leverage based on Privacy Act,
yeah,
right? So it remains to be seen how whether there will be convergence of those regulations eventually across the globe, just as the GDPR did for every
yeah,
other country,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, and the other thing potentially we can also add in the governance also is around observability in the runtime,
hmm.
right? So that is also becoming more and more important as well.
Yeah. I think
Good.
on the observability side, yes, the governance is can majority focused on the ethical use of AI,
Mm,
responsible use
mm,
of AI, but governance can play critical role in terms of the FinOps perspective as well, because that's
yeah.
also a governance. And with the
Yes.
cost of the model inbuilt or the embedded, if they are not watched properly,
Yeah.
and right guardrails and the controls are not there around
Yeah.
the in observability of the models, it can
Yeah.
spiral the cost quite quickly. So it is
Yeah. Yeah.
important apply that governance
Yes.
around uh, that financial
Yeah.
operations.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So governance and ethics is definitely one important pillar or dimension for your whole strategic AI consideration. The other equally important is the technology side, in my view, and this is becoming more and more relevant and apparent as organizations are at least started thinking of moving towards agentic AI. It seems we are organizations now need to start thinking about what critical capabilities from technology perspective are required to enable acceleration of AI in a scalable manner, right? Whether it's a resiliency of infrastructure, whether it is data backbone, whether it is the security of AI agents themselves, etc. So, what can you summarize for listeners as to what that technology backbone would look like at a high level and how organizations should think of implementing that?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty broad area and quite evolving, as
Yeah.
we have seen in last 2 or 3 years. I would say, let me try to summarize as much as I can, the best of my knowledge. And this is at this point, you never know, it can be
Yes,
different.
yes. That's
3 months.
one thing about AI. It's so overwhelming. The speed of change is so overwhelming that every 3 months you see entirely new
Yeah.
models and new
Mm.
maturity of models, and you need to think of it differently. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first I would say, coming from the data background, the fundamentals of data architecture has changed in a way that uh, it is now called as AI ready data, right? That's fun
Mm,
to understand from, because I've been in 19 years in the data space, and we used to have data as an asset, data as an enabler, data driven organization.
yes.
Now it's AI ready data. That's the
Yeah.
fun concept. So I
Yeah.
would say that evolution of the vector data sets, the real time pipelines,
Yeah.
streaming features to stores, knowledge repositories, or the knowledge graph, which are heavily scalable, and more sort of Gen AI solutions are based on the vector data
Mm,
sets and vector search. Then what sort of how you're going to create, are you going to create the knowledge graph, or are you going to host the vector data assets? Because there are
mm,
lots of open source are there, as well as it could be with AWS or Azure's. So what's the technology of choice, and what sort of or are you going to buy from the market and then embed that in your landscape, and then how you're going to
yeah.
integrate and the controls around that. So that's one of the fundamental changes I see. The RAG is going to, RAG is, we all
Sure.
know. So how do you set up that RAG architecture efficiently? What sort of embedding models you use, which sort of use cases you drive out of RAG within your organization, which models you use for embedding models, as well as for the output models, as well as then how do you integrate in your system, right? So that whole
Mm,
RAG architecture becomes really important. And then how do you manage that RAG architecture going ahead with the cost perspective, security perspective? So that's the second pattern evolving. And then the third is, as we are talking about now, we have moved from the ML to the deep learning to the LLMs of the RAGs, and then the agent. Now we are talking about yeah, number of agent, single agent or multi-agent systems. Then we got to really think about the AI orchestration platforms, right? Whether how it can be able to uh, have that orchestration integration between number of agents and the workflow management, the API connections, whether you yes, MCP is there, the protocol, but then whether do you create the MCP servers for which sort of your applications, and then able to integrate that, the analytics around that, uh, personalize use case specific agents, or you go domain specific agents. So that sort of thinking, and then the modularization of that. I really like
Yeah.
your concept around the composable enterprise. So
Yeah.
if the enterprise starts going in that, that means more and more agentic AI starts
Yeah.
coming in the picture. But
Yeah.
then how do
Absolutely.
you not lose that value? So that
Yeah.
potential fourth flavor. The fifth, probably, as we discuss, AI governance platforms coming into the play, uh,
Yeah.
which can gives us the ability to really have streamline AI implementations and then monitoring of that, observability of that AI across the board. And potentially the other would be the modularity around
Mm.
different sort of models, because what's going to happen, there will be some sort of drift in the models because of the data quality change in the business processes. So how do you ensure that there is a modularity when certain models or the agents are not performing, then how
Yeah.
quickly pivot and have a
Yeah.
different sort of agents performing for you.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
security is going to be pretty critical. I see that AI governance probably coming forming that key part like cyber security. So
Yeah.
going
Yes.
ahead, so then security, right from the infrastructure, network, application, and the integration, where do you embed AI to drive certain security features
Mm.
and be able to provide advanced threat protection
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, good points. For one thing, as you were mentioned, things going in my mind where, and what you mentioned, but to summarize, even we think of AI enablement from technology backbone perspective, some of the traditional fundamentals about technology, whether it's the strong data strategy, so data as a product, or good data governance technologies, reusable modular APIs, right?
Mm.
The cloud infrastructure, right, for better scalability and resilience, etc. Those fundamentals are still equally important, right? You build on top of that, right,
Exactly.
the specifics of AI capabilities that you need, but these fundamentals are still very much important for any organization. That's an important thing everyone should consider. um, the couple of things, probably I'll just add on what you said, where from security perspective, and we'll come to agentic AI a little bit later, but agentic AI comes with its own expectations on security. Particularly, these agents will have their own identities. So,
Mm.
how do you make sure there is a robust access management
Mm.
controls
Mm.
that you implement for these kind of agents? Right, that's important. Okay, so Apurva, let's move to the next topic in our conversation. We talked about ethics, governance. We talked about technology, etc. One thing that emerging more and more for that organizations should start thinking of is AI. At the end of the day, is a new technology, right? And it with any new technology comes the expectations or requirements for new skills. Potentially, and AI is a step change in the way organizations would function. Right? It's just not really just a new technology. It's a different way of doing the business as well to a certain extent. So it will necessitate consideration for different types of potentially even operating models, different roles, etc. Right? So, how, I mean, do you want to, can you summarize for listeners again, what kind of skills organizations should start thinking from, let's say, from developer engineer perspective or end user perspective, and what kind of roles potentially might even emerge in the future that organizations should start thinking about and plan ahead?
Yeah, great question again. I think as we touched upon in the initial question around the AI strategy, and AI strategy can really unlock that sort of understanding that based on your enterprise's culture and the vision, and the current skill set you have, what's the best way to operate, organize, and reskill or redevelop the organization. When I talk about some of the roles which will come into play, is senior level is pretty critical, would be the AI product managers. I
Mm,
strongly feel that as the demand for data products and AI products starts going up in the agentic enterprise, then the AI product manager becomes a really key to be able to drive that vision around the uh, AI AI initiatives and the ambition around the business, and then how that product can evolve and get developed end to
mm,
end. The second senior role, I would say, as a governance lead, AI governance lead,
mm,
potentially a dedicated person defining the
mm,
overall framework, approach, vision, the roadmap, and to be able to take the overall accountability and responsibility to drive
mm,
the AI governance as it becomes critical in the organization. Then the third thing, probably in these the some of the leadership role can come around the human in the loop sort of the officers, probably,
mhm,
which they can identify opportunities and work with the relevant AI implementations to be able to set the standards and the framework, and to be able to provide that the checklist tick marks in terms of assessing the overall implementation around the AI. And then some of the core around the implementation and sort of engineering level, I see the prompt engineer, context engineering, and the AI engineering are emerging as a role where they specifically focus on the RAG architectures, the agentic architectures, to be able to, or the languages which are like sort of
mhm,
graph crew, able to define and create those the frameworks and implement those frameworks based on the architecture. The second is around the
yeah,
uh, ML ops engineers. Not most of the organization has the ML or data scientists, but ML ops or the AI ops engineers, which are in the
mm,
different operation management sort of area of the AI, where when we started to have the DevOps engineers coming into play, now the AI ops and the ML ops engineers can come into play.
mm,
And then the agent orchestration or the agent orchestration managers or the designers also can be one of the important things to understand those frameworks and to be able to really manage that across the enterprise, to take that responsibility of uh, ensuring that agents orchestrations and the agents are performing. So these five or six key
mm,
roles
mm,
changing. Probably another is whether AI architecture emerges as a
mm,
dedicated along with the data architecture.
mm,
And
mm,
I think what I some of the Gartner predictions are CDAO sort of roles would always have, will AI will embedded into the data
mm,
responsibilities as well, and not just the data executive leadership, but the AI embedded as per the Gartner, and
mm,
to drive that
mhm.
holistic responsibilities.
Yeah, yeah. No,
These,
sure. So some of, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, thanks. I think that this is what I think
Mm,
critical
yeah,
changes are coming into the
yeah.
organization. I think these are, from my perspective, of course, it's based on the culture of the organization and how
So
how what sort of best operating model suits for an organization.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, these are more of a generic trends, I would suggest, which might be emerging, right? But for every organization, they will have to take that into consideration and then accommodate that in their operating model, which means that the roles may not be the same roles potentially within the organization, but the responsibilities are more important, and those responsibilities could be covered under some other roles, etc. Right? No, good. Let's move to our next conversation topic, and this excites potentially everyone nowadays, which is this shift towards the agentic AI, right?
Mhm.
And this seems, and everyone thinks that this is potentially the promise, the eventual promise from AI, where when organizations are struggling for the ROIs, etc., this is where potentially they will start realizing their ROIs. They will start realizing the much strategic use cases, real value differentiation, etc. So, and it's early stages, but there's a lot of excitement and buzz around it within the industry. So, can you summarize again for everyone what is unique about agentic AI? Why this shift is so important, and how organizations should potentially consider approaching this at a high level, at least.
Yeah, I like Samitra what you said there, that
Hmm.
it's a new buzzword, and clearly 2 years back everyone was talking about LLM and
Yeah,
Chat GPT, and now by the end of last year it is all agentic AI,
yeah.
and some of those Chat GPT feels like
Yeah, it's
we're using from
yeah.
the schools a
It's
number of years.
all of a sudden 2 years back technology has become legacy.
Yes, exactly, and
Mm,
that's fascinating. And we have been discussing in this forum
yeah,
as well
yeah.
quite a lot. I think I see agentic AI is sort of one of the evolution, because we are
Mm,
looking already at the quantums and the AGI going
sure.
ahead. So
Yeah.
this is midway, as per the Gartner hype curve. The hype
Mm,
curve is reaching the normalization,
yeah.
the proper
Yeah.
adoption. I would say, see, let's say traditional AI was around the ML and the deep learning, uh,
Mm,
for detection, churn, risk, next best
mm,
action. Then come the Gen AI, which is able to predict the next sequence of the words or the
mm,
tokens based on
mm,
the
mm.
context you
Yeah.
gave. And then agentic AI is the next level, which can act autonomously within the guardrail to complete the task end to end with the help of LLMs or the ML models, or talking to your core systems or systems of the or to be able to talk to call external systems and get the insights from that. So I would say four or five things agentic AI can do is it can plan the
Mm,
sequence of steps. Like you are booking a flight, it can
mm,
literally plan for
yeah.
you. Uh, it can call those APIs and systems, like with
Mm,
the MCP protocols, able to interact with multiple, let's say, flight booking servers, collaborate with other agents. If, let's say, you want any special deals along with the flight booking, and you have a holiday planning agent, then it can plan that for you, self correct if it
mm,
fails, escalate if it requires,
mm,
and working step by step with other agents or other systems. It gives you the recommended best way to book your flight or best deals, even
mm,
though you don't know, but it can offer you the sort of best of the holiday experience.
mm,
That's sort of I see the agentic AI potentially can be give an example. I can say that to be able to drive that enterprise fully. I was reading about
mm,
what could come in terms of the contact centers. Let's say, for example,
mm,
by 2030, it probably we would have the bot economy where agents are
mm,
talking to agents, and to be able to order, for example, your fridge agent is able to understand what's is getting empty and able to talk to relevant
Yeah.
supermarket, order things for you and get it
Yeah.
delivered without.
It also, yeah. It also means there would be increasing need for orchestration of multiple agents, because you will have that economy of agents, ecosystem of
Yes.
agents, which are actually doing work, but then someone needs to orchestrate. And coming back to our previous discussion on the roles, etc., there could be potentially emergence of a human role called orchestrator, right, within different parts of the business, which is responsible for set of AI agents within that
Yes.
operation, right, and which is more we can orchestrate than agents for specific business outcomes. So these are fascinating new um, considerations, right? Yeah, and agentic
It
AI,
is.
in my view,
It is.
yeah, agentic AI, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it is fascinating. However, then it comes with the consideration around the solid foundations of your data, the
Yes,
guardrails
exactly.
around security
Yeah, yeah,
and the protection. Because if it is
yes,
going to talk to external agents or
yeah,
your enterprise is going to provide the MCP servers, then what's the
yeah,
considerations around that? So it
yeah.
comes back to a lot can be done, but having the right
Yes.
foundation
Have
would
the
be.
road foundations and all the points we discussed previously: governance, technology backbone,
Mm.
skills. There is specific implication on all of those for agentic AI, right? There's specific consideration you need to make for governance perspective for agentic AI, because if the systems are completely autonomous, right, then the need for governance and auditability and observability, that elevates much higher,
Yeah,
right? And so on and so forth.
totally,
So
totally.
yeah. Okay, so Apurva, now let's think a little bit ahead in the future, right? We talked about how what are the key considerations for developing strategy for organizations, etc. So if we now think 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and 5 years is eon in AI world, um, what kind of major shifts you are anticipating, which organizations should be prepared for, at least plan ahead?
I wish I had a crystal ball and I could answer this question the way things are moving so fast. Uh, Probably 5 years is too much. Maybe
Yes,
two
it is
years
too much.
I can think of these days. And you know, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the data AI, but other aspects around the infrastructure, security, as well,
Yes.
how things are moving faster. So probably let's say next 2 or 3 years, I see every employee will have some sort of co-pilot uh,
Mm,
given to them, and the assumption would be that they have been trained to use it, and that's driving the lot of efficiency and productivity. uh, the end-to-end process redesign, right? The AI was just automating some of the task in the entire process. For example, you are trying to summarize the conversation or summarize the clinical outcomes after the consultations, or able to provide you the recommendations after you log into portal, let's say. But
mm,
uh, how it can really drive that end-to-end workflow using AI embedded in the each step, that would be the key. The third thing, probably
mm,
the data quality might get embedded in the one of the top level, board level or
mm,
CEO level KPIs, where the data quality dashboards are getting embedded. This is a bold claim, but it can happen to really see, in order to AI to perform, what's the data quality across the board,
mm,
along like the six principles of the data quality are getting met or not, specifically around the structured data at least. But then if you are for the the enterprises which are able to tap onto unstructured data, and you can't guarantee the quality, but at least have some of the principles applied on the unstructured data. That will be good. AI governance and the risk dashboards with the real time accessibility with the model inventories and what sort of risk AI has, and that gets elevated as well, potentially at the level of cybersecurity. But that can be also really important in terms of driving the right decisions from the enterprise. And I think the final would be whether the system of record will stay system of record, or because every you have seen the core systems as well coming up with the semantic AI layer, whether they can create the context aware recommendations and the searches,
Mm.
so
Mm.
and able to drive the insights directly from the core systems,
Mm.
which then can be embedded with the agents. So these sort of 5 or 6 changes have,
Mm.
having the widespread co-pilot adoption, process redesigning with the AI embedding AI into the
Mm.
systems, prioritization of data quality along with the unstructured and the metadata management, elevation of AI governance across the board, and probably the shift in uh, the way core systems operate from the systems of record to systems of intelligence. What do you think from your?
Yeah, I mean, these are really good. Maybe I can add a couple of, and probably you might have touched base those implicitly. One is I can add is in the future, the business operations, like
Mhm.
individual business operations, you can start looking at those as is a hybrid model of humans plus agents, right?
Yeah,
So let's say a back office operation which has certain people doing insurance claims operations, but you might have some claims related agents. And when you look at that operation holistically, it's a hybrid of some agents and some people working together. So it's a different way of looking as an operational team.
yeah.
Um, Second is which is emerging, and I was reading an article yesterday or day before itself, is the how the global the threat actors are they started weaponizing AI,
Hmm.
right? So there is a lot of implication of how enterprises are going to look at security,
Yeah,
because we are using most of our organizations are using AI for the betterment, of course, right? But there are global threat actors in the dark webs and everywhere. They are using LLMs and AI for an entirely different purpose,
yeah,
right? And then the way the ransomwares happen, the way phishing attacks happen, etc., they are going to be dramatically different and very high at a very high scale, using AI, automated AI capabilities, right? So, how organizations can prepare themselves and respond for that, that is still, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. So, probably that is one important thing organizations need to think and potentially worry about a bit,
yeah.
right? But yeah,
That's good.
yeah. So these are the ones. Anyway, I think we are running out of time, but Apurva, thanks for coming here. Thanks for providing your insights. And I'm sure our listeners are going to take away many key learnings. In the If you are okay, I will drop your LinkedIn profile, reference to your LinkedIn profile in this video when I upload this.
Sure.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, they can connect with you. They can connect with you on LinkedIn, right? But again, it was a great chat. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Omidra. Thanks for having me. And I also really enjoyed discussing this fascinating question and talking to you. Look forward to next one.
Thank you. See you. Bye. Hope you liked today's episode. Please subscribe us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and X platforms. Also, if you are passionate about any such enterprise technology topics and want to participate in the discussion, please reach out at inquiry@enterprisetech.com. Also, please visit the website www.enterprisetech.com for more details.